Welcome to DanYellScraps. My name is Danielle and I'm glad that you're here. Make sure you hit subscribe, like, and that bell so you don't miss another tutorial.
Hi, welcome back to the Sunday Scrap Challenge. Scraplift Challenge, sorry. So today we're going to work on the page on 42 in the March-April catalog from Close to My Heart. Reminder that this is the last catalog that they're going to publish. So on this page here, you can see that we have some elements that calls basically for scraps. I don't have the stamp set that's used today, so I'm going to be using a series of thin cuts and some stickers from a retired collection just to go to show that this is going to work with regardless of what paper that you have. So the pictures that are in there are 3x4. These pieces here are 2x9. And then I've gone ahead and cut some matting for those at 2¼ by 9¼ You could theoretically, if you wanted to, cut an entire mat instead of individual ones. About 2 years ago, I made this paper with distress oxide inks, and I decided that I would use the two corners from this to mimic what we see in the sample layout here. So you see there's like a little sapphire and maybe a sage piece that are sticking out of the corners there. Okay, so that's where this is going to come in. And I am using Life's a Hoot paper collection. You can find some of the elements left over from that collection on the Close to My Heart website, like the stamp set and such, some of the PML cards. So if you still love it, some of those things are still there. I'm going to start with a wisteria piece of cardstock, and I'm going to cut the center out. So you can see here there's a whole giant hole in there, and I'll use that to make the matting for my photos. I've taken a piece of pattern paper and I've cut it down to 11 by 11. And now you see that I'm bringing in that custom paper that I made with those distress oxide inks and sort of doing a dry run here to see how I like this. So you can see that when you put these down, if you butt them right up to where that cut line is in the center, if you do that, it's going to hide it. So you do need to make sure that you're putting them out a little bit from there so that it will be a peekaboo effect behind your pattern paper here. Any kind of adhesive will work well. I do enjoy this Tombow Mono adhesive that you see here in the video. It does give you a little bit of wiggle room, and it does allow you to play a little bit with it. It is permanent though, so once it's down, it's down. So if it comes up, it's not coming up very nicely. I am using my Versamat grid here from Close to My Heart, and I use this as a guide for placing my pieces down so that when I eyeball it, it is as even as possible. All right, and now let's go ahead and add some adhesive around so we can put that center piece in. I really love how coincidentally these colors came together to marry really nicely with this Life's a Hoot collection. So as you lay this down, I'm just going to smoosh in some of that adhesive so it sits nicely. I do apologize, I had to move my camera setup, so every time I am pushing on this, it's jarring the table, which jars the camera, so I do apologize about that. Just temporary. Okay, so the pattern paper calls for these long pieces to be separated. And initially when I was doing the layout, was my plan was to do that. I just sort of wanted these colors to pop since my background was so busy. I wanted to sort of tone down that busyness because I opted to use a pattern paper instead of cardstock. So here you can see I'm just coming in and adhering down those pieces with the Tombow Mono liquid adhesive and putting those on those matting that I have. And I still like that. I still like how that turned out. But yeah, definitely if I were to do this again, I would probably just cut a solid piece and sort of strips out to do that. But that's the beauty of doing a Scraplift. When you case something that you see in a magazine or online or what have you, this is the perfect opportunity for you to learn and grow your skill set. So here I'm just sort of doing a dry run of my pictures and make sure that I like the setting for them, and I'm playing with the title. So I've cut this title out of the thin cuts, and I'll link that in the description below, the thin cuts that I used, so that you have them there. And it cuts out best friend and a host of other title supplements that go there. It's meant for cards, but I thought it was perfect for a scrapbook layout. And then for my clustering and things of that nature, I am going to go ahead and use the leftover stickers from Life's a Hoot sticker sheet and create this. Now, when I'm using my stickers, it's really hard for me to decide what's going on. So you do sort of speed this video up and do a voiceover so that you're not stuck here with my indecisiveness. I a lot of times like to just get the basics of the layout down so that you have something to go with, and then you can make it your own. And so that's why a lot of times you'll see the finished product in the pictures after the video versus on the video. Everybody's different, to each their own. I know that some creators like to finish the whole process on video. So here I am lining this up, and I decided at this point, this is where I'm just not going to leave that spacing anymore, that I really want those all to come together to sort of be cohesive. And so that's what I mean by, like, in the future, if I were to do this again with a busy pattern instead of the white daisy in the back, I would definitely call it a solid piece of cardstock matting there. So here, I'm just going to finish this up. I do get it uneven here, so there's a lot of extra space on the right-hand side here. I don't think it's too bad, but I do like it. I like how the stripes all come together, so it's busy. So when you're putting your pictures down, you can remember to stagger them, or you can separate them. So stagger them, you can lay them on top of each other, or you can, make them nice and neat. It's your personal preference. I do encourage you to try different things that you haven't tried before. My favorite tools, obviously my bone folder in there. I really like to use that when I'm using a liquid adhesive, just to sort of get that adhesive to spread evenly so it doesn't clump up or anything of that nature, excuse me. And it's a gentle hand, so I make sure that I'm not like this with my bone folder. It's just real nice, and so just something to just sort of push that adhesive along and make sure that it adheres real nicely. Best is going to go right up here at the top, and I struggle with this for a little bit, trying to get that in so that those letters don't blend in. And then I have friends down at the bottom, and I decide that I'm going to go ahead and pop up Best, and I'm using the 3D foam that is found inside the shaker kits. So when you buy a shaker kit from Close to My Heart, it has the outline to create the shaker card. This one happens to be for a slim line. And then the inside of that, you can't use that to make any other shakers because of how it's designed. So what they've done, instead of taking those out and throwing those away, they've left them in there, and you have all of these beautiful squares and dots and things that you can see me using here. So I just sort of trim them down to fit on the letters here, and it works out nice. I'm able to use those non-stick scissors to cut that flawlessly. It doesn't stick to them, and so I love that little Teflon added, if you will, to the scissors. It's what I imagine is Teflon. And so then I pop those up over there, and I make sure that they fit right there on that flamingo piece of cardstock, or that pink cardstock. I just really want to make sure that those highlight up. I guess I wasn't forward thinking when I was putting down that sapphire piece that black might blend in a little bit too much. And as I put these in and I squish them together, you're going to see here that I end up scrapping friends. Because I was working on several projects at once, I had some pre-cut thin cuts, and there was one sitting on my table, and it was just like, Eureka! So you can see here, I'm just trying to find the best place for this word best. And then I realized right there, I can just cluster it up, and it can hang off a little bit, and it will be just fine. So that's a really good thing for you to see here, is just knowing that you can move things around. It doesn't have to be exactly how it is in whatever the project is that you're casing. So here's where I see it. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's white best, and they're hugging, so it's best hugs. I'll just tell you a little bit about my subjects here in my layout while you see me cut this out and put this down. This is my beautiful aunt hugging my daughter, and then the second picture is my grandmother in the background with my daughter. And my grandmother was the matriarch of our family, and we've sadly lost her a couple years ago at the beautiful age of 101. She was amazing, and I just hope to strive to be half the person that she is, or was, as I age and become a better mom, and eventually one day a grandmother, I suppose. My kids are too young for that yet. So this is one of my favorite pictures. It just shows how much love our family has. So that little sentiment just sitting off to the side, it was probably my grandma saying, "Here, use this." So then I'm going to come in and I'm going to start making some clusters here. And I just want you to know that, I'll finish all of these clusters off after the video, and you'll see that at the end. And I've even worked on it since I've taken the final pictures and added some things, because at the end of it, I find that the bottom is just too plain for me. So I actually end up not liking that at the end. And so then I did, and I have it with me right here. I do go ahead and add in some of those purple strips that you see at the top of that sticker sheet. So that's not in the final picture, and that's okay. I just want to show you that, so I encourage you that, nothing is ever final. And at the end of the day, if I left it alone in the book like this, my family isn't going to criticize me. They're not going to be like, "Oh my gosh, this is so plain." They're going to be like, "Oh, I remember hugging aunt. I remember seeing grandma," or, "Oh, I remember how fun this was," and so on and so forth. Trust me, your family is not going to critique too much your style of scrapbooking. All right, until next time, I will see you soon, and I hope that you have a wonderful day and happy crafting. Bye, everybody.